What's up, everyone? It's closing time. I'm Kelly. I'm your host, and I'm here today with co-host Alex Thompson and Daniel Sa, and we're going to be talking to a mortgage legend, David Arocho, and we're going to hear about a 30-year mortgage career, the lessons he's learned, advice he has for those who are getting into the industry, and then what's next for him. Start from the beginning, David. Tell us everything.
Tell us your whole life, Arocho.
Yes. No, but
well, it started in 19.
Started before phones. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, it sure did.
No, but tell us your journey. Tell us like how you started, how you got into this industry. You know, maybe some of those oddball jobs before, and
absolutely,
so we can kind of get to know you a little bit more.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm originally from Lorain, Ohio, so I'm one of 7 kids. There's 6 boys and 1 girl in my family, and I have a twin brother. For those of you who do not know, great childhood, great upbringing. I think probably where I got a lot of my long-term vision was through my dad. My dad was a workaholic. My dad worked 7 days a week. My dad provided for a family of 7, and my mom, who never worked, he never wanted her to work. My dad instilled that work ethic. So that always stayed with me growing up. Going through my childhood years and all that fun stuff or whatever, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, when I got in this business, it wasn't until in my early 30s. I look back wondering, should I have started earlier? But I have to ask myself, if I had, would the outcome be the same? And probably not. I wasn't just really ready at that point. I started in the finance business. So I did collections, foreclosures. And that's where my first step into the mortgage industry was shortly after high school. So I did servicing for 12 years for a mortgage company. For the longest time, they kept pressuring me, saying, hey, David, why don't you try sales? Even though I felt like I had a good personality, I didn't feel the confidence. I wasn't confident at that time yet to experience that type of a 100% commission. Oh, are you kidding me? 100% commission feared the hell out of me. So all I cared about was paychecks on Fridays to go out to the bars on the weekend. That was my life, But at the mortgage company that I was at, it was a very small family mortgage business. They got me involved in refis. So I did that. And this was back in 1997.
1990?
1996. Okay. I'm dating myself here. 1996 is when I started that venture thing. Okay, let me try something like this. And at that point, I thought, hey, this could be a good thing for me. But when I got involved in the lending business, per se, on the refinance side, I said, let me try it. I did it for a couple months and I realized this is not that bad. What I enjoyed about that was the engagement. At that point, I started engaging with people from clienteles, from title companies, but I wasn't involved with realtors at that point yet. But I enjoyed the engagement. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, after a couple months, I'm thinking, oh, this is not that bad. I saw a paycheck, I'm thinking, okay. And it wasn't huge back then, but to me it was. And I thought to myself, okay, this could be something that I could really, really do. So at that point in my life, I had to take a serious approach and thought to myself, if I'm gonna take a dive into this business, I was gonna have to sacrifice. When I got involved in the lending business with Countrywide gave me my start. In 1997, they gave me my start. Countrywide used to have what they call internal loan consultant positions. And so I was one of the first ones that they ever hired.
I was like, is Countrywide still around?
No, Countrywide got bought out by Bank of America back when the whole mortgage crisis in 07, 08 happened. Yeah.
So quick question on that. 7 kids, that's amazing, right? So there's probably a little bit of structure that you've had to bring in through your life in this business, because that's one of the things I see when I see David. I'm like, David is so structured, so disciplined. He has it together.
I am structured, but probably not nearly as structured as people think that I am. Do I have some daily plan that's set out every day? No, I don't. I did it probably in the beginning, but I found that I'm one that tend to venture a little bit off because I could. I would go off the track, but at the end of the day, my goal was always going to be the same. I don't have daily planning all the time. Sometimes I take my day by what's going to happen that morning. I wake up and then, okay, what's my day going to look like for today? So it's not always planned.
But you're disciplined. And
very
you said,
disciplined.
And I love that you said this earlier with me. You said, I had to train myself to be structured because I'm not naturally that way. And I think that's so nice to hear from someone like you, because someone from the outside, they're like, I could never be a David because it's not natural for me.
Right.
You said it's not natural for me either. I'm just disciplined and I've trained myself over time.
I was under a lot of guidance back then when I first started in this business. So I tried to do what everybody else was giving me guidance on. It got to a point where I realized, things were not too natural for me. I started to realize, I need to do things a little more differently, how I think that might work for me.
Tell me about a normal day for you, because I'm thinking David wakes up at 5 a.m. He eats his egg whites.
No,
he does 100 push-ups.
I don't eat egg whites.
What is...
I eat the yellow.
No, but I want to know that. I think that's something I look up to. You're really disciplined. I mean, you do. push-ups in the office.
I
We've
do.
seen you. So tell me, just kind of take us through a normal day for David, and then kind of how you end your day.
Oh my God.
Does your day ever end? We
well,
just
no,
talked
it
about you don't know
doesn't.
how to mute your phone because you're always helping clients and stuff.
Every
But
day
what
can
is
be
a normal
different,
day?
though. I'm an early bird anyway, so I tend to get up 4:30, 5 o'clock. I've utilized that time in the morning now to go through my social media stuff, Facebook, whatever, go through all that stuff. I've trained myself now is to not, after late hours, get on social media anymore. Too time consuming. I do that social stuff to get me tired out for a little bit, lay back down. I'll get up around 6:30 and get my day started. I'm an office person. I have to have a reason to get out of my house, and I love getting out.
As the world has transitioned to a lot of work from home, work remote, do you think that helps you with your structure?
There's certain things in my life that I've realized that I just cannot do well, and that's one of them. I cannot work from home. I am not one that works well from home. I know others in my team who do, and they're very efficient, and I appreciate that. But for myself, I can't. I go in because at that point when I go into the office, there's a purpose. So I make my time more valuable by being there versus at home. Am I really being as valuable?
You love connecting with people and your team, and it's so great when you go in the office because David has like the snack layout in the office when he used to be over at the Easton office. Oh my gosh. He's got the Doritos.
I'm not
he
a
gets
health nut.
Not the healthy Doritos, the Doritos.
the
you know.
Doritos.
Yeah.
I look like a health nut.
Yes.
Yes.
You balance it, right? 'Cause
I do.
You balance it.
Listen,
all.
at this point in my life, in my career, it's a good balance. When I was younger, like I said, more stringent on that diet part, but as I've gotten older, I'm not again, that discipline still keeps me focused. And that's no different, the fact that I will never allow myself to get to a point where I'm not comfortable with myself, how I look. And I think I work with my business that way too. The fact that, I'm never going to allow it to get to a point where it's unknown to me. I'm not going to go to a dark part of that.
And
of
I
my
love
business.
that because we talk about your hands-on approach and being really connected with the client versus kind of leaning too much on tech for you, right? Because tech is something that is a big part of the industry and you use it, but you're not leaning so much into it where it takes over for you. Too.
You're right, because the technology I've embraced to some degree, but I'm also fearful of it. It's a whole different mindset for me. But what I won't lose mindset of is how I've driven my business, and that has been relationship driven. My work ethic and my heart, my clients who actually will know how we're serving them.
What I've watched and seen, especially with being at NFM, you don't change your business model, you just use it to help your business. And that
Absolutely.
may be
Yeah, like
with
you don't
communication.
ever replace David. Some
Yeah,
people
and
don't want the relationship in the same way that he does, like
Yeah.
where they're like, this helps me because I'm not good with relationships or great with follow-up or great with people maybe. And so they lean into that a lot and it helps them. But David is like, I am the relationship. I love the relationship. I like hanging
Listen,
out.
the technology is great. And I'd be crazy to tell you that I can't embrace it. So there's been a lot of greatness to it. And my team has utilized that to their benefit. But at the end of the day, my success after all these years has been that one-on-one, that relationship. People can tell when they're dealing with you versus a non-human. They know when it's automated, when it's personal. Those little touches that happen throughout a transaction can say a lot. I keep those personal touches for those reasons.
And so like what advice would you give someone who maybe is afraid of the tech and wants to run something more like you?
When I realized that I could really do well in this, I realized, okay, I'm going to build a brand. And I knew that the brand was going to make me. At the end of the day, it wasn't about the company, it was about the name, who you were. Those out there, I think you have to realize that working in this industry, your work ethic, your trustworthiness, reliability, your heart. People know where you're coming from. I've always said, if you enter this business all about money, you will not succeed. You have come to this for all the wrong reasons at that point.
This is a part that I really appreciate a lot about you, David, is you have this extreme level of expectation for the client experience, more so than anyone that I have ever met. And it's very evident in your business and the consistency that you've had over decades now. Right. So tell me a little bit about this level of expectations that you have to the overall client experience.
Well, first of all, I live with that model. You're only as good as your last client. You're only as good as your last deal. That's the last thing people remember. I treat my clients like I would want to be treated. I treat these kids as if I were their parents at times. How would I want them to treat my own kid? If you're looking at clients and not on a dollar sense, but on a more moral sense. You're doing all the right things for them. You're putting them in a great position. And again, they know that. They sense that. They know that you're helping them, not because of financial reasons, but you're helping them because you really want to help them.
And I look at reports all the time, and what stands out to me the most on a consistent basis is the fact that, let's say you've helped over 250 families in the past 12 months, and the average turn time from the moment that they sign an initial contract and when they have a clear to close is 12 days. And that's the fastest of all of NFM. Imagine applying for a mortgage loan and then 6 days later having it clear to close, right? Because if it's 12 days, that means that half of your clients are clear to close in 6 days. The other half is 18 days. So your average is 12 days. How have you been able to maintain such an expedited process for your clients?
Well, first of all, getting the right people in play. It was getting the right people that would work like you do, have that mindset like you do. I don't take all the credit. I don't do it all, but obviously I'm the face and get that initial started. But to me, that client's experience is vital. It's huge. Closing in 12 days, you know they're going to talk about that. Realtors are going to talk about that. In this industry, as much as that's involved, at the end of the day, our business is one that it should be easily, a pre-approval, getting clients approved, going through all the steps of our process is not rocket science. Should be something done very easily. So I think we've just learned to take that process that you've given us at NFM, because again, really, NFM has given us that ability to be able to get it closed in that time frame with its current processes. You've opened the door for us and allowed us that opportunity to do that and show that it can be done in that time frame in the right process.
You don't put your name on it, and you don't send out the pre-approval until you get everything. And so tell us a little bit about that. I think you still meet with a lot of clients, correct?
Absolutely.
And so when you're meeting with them, what's your level of conversations, of document review? How do you go about that to make sure that when you put your name on that you're going to be able to deliver it in 6 days, 12 days?
I think through word of mouth, the clients already know, they've heard about it. To me, you have to put some of that responsibility on your client. If you're looking to close it in 5, 7, 10 days, it's a dialogue. You have that conversation with your client, say, this can be done. But you have to let them know that you're going to be just as instrumental on the direction where it goes. You will be the success or the demise of this closing. So involving them is going to be very important as well, too.
Really respect about you is your authenticity. You are unapologetically you, and you don't work with, I know, I love that. But I love that because you don't have to work with every client. You're very successful. You are comfortable with referring a client that might not be a good fit for you because you want them to be successful too.
That is correct.
And I love that. Is that because where you are, did you used to take every deal? Did you used to take on every client?
It's a good question, and again, we talked about the new generation that comes into this business, and we talk about reputation and so forth. That was important to me. I think when I got in this business and I hung around with people that were very reputable, and I thought to myself, okay, how do I maintain that same reputation that they did? So there was a lot of guidance at that point. But again, I realized at an early stage of my career, and I learned a valuable lesson after one transaction, that I would never do it again.
I'm like, tell me about that transaction.
And it costed me a lot of money. So I knew I learned a lesson back in the day.
One.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, very valuable lesson, but I learned from it. And I told myself, I will never allow that to happen again.
Every client's not the same, so not every client's easy. A right fit.
After all these years, after 25 years, I still want to be involved with the clients. I still speak with them, even if my team members have a dialogue with them.
But you don't take every client.
I don't.
Because
I may pass 30 deals a year, and I'll tell you why. My name, my brand is far more important than taking clients down an unknown rabbit hole that I don't know. I may not take the risk that I probably should take, but at the end of the day, I look at where I'm at after 25 years, and I'm glad that I haven't. Do I take deals that gone elsewhere? Absolutely. Should I have taken them? Maybe. But I'm relevant 25 years later. So I don't want to change that practice. And to me, there are other experts out there who might know certain things that I just don't know. I don't know everything, and I know that. I'll take upon what I do best. I never want to have a client with me and then realize that they've had a different experience that I've never been used to.
And that is amazing. I know there's so many loan officers that will take a deal.
It's a yes. Everyone's a yes.
Yeah.
And again, if you're a loan officer that comes to this business to say yes to everybody, you're in the wrong business.
You set a high barrier of entry for your client of what is the expectation that they must deliver on. And if that is not a handshake deal, right, that's sometimes where you may find a different direction for them. Right.
I've had clients who I have referred out who have sent their family members to me for their loans because of the fact that they respect the honesty. Listen, I sleep at night knowing that a client has gone maybe somewhere else and I didn't get the deal, but they got a deal that's far better for them, and I can sleep better at night as a result of that. NFM is a great company. We will take every deal possible that we can grab, but at the end of the day, if I know that it's something that I can't do or I'm going to be more challenged, and I know that I don't want that client to experience any of that, amazing. Then to me, it's very important that they understand.
And you're like, here, Alex.
No,
take a look.
You're Daniel. But I speak to the agents as well. It's very important that when a client comes to me and it's something that I have questions or I may not be able to do, I have a dialogue with the referral. I don't want them ever to think that I want their deal, but I explain to them why. And my business partners, they will still send everything to me, even if they think that I may not be able to do it, because they want to at least know that I have had a dialogue and their clients know, hey, we did give you to someone that we think is great. He thinks there's something there that might be a little bit better for you elsewhere. I don't sell a product unless I can sell it to myself.
I've noticed with you, and I want to know, when did this start with you is speed. You're very quick for everything that you do. If a client messages you, you want to get back to him quickly. And sometimes that stresses me out because, I see a message from David. I know I got to get back to him right away because he's going to go find the answer from someone else.
Because he knows
but
that.
You do that
He
with your
talks
client.
fast. I'm like, David.
But he will. He needs to find the answer right away, and it's to make sure it's for his clients is the reason he's doing it. And so I'm like, I gotta stop what I'm doing sometimes because I know he needs that answer. He's not bugging me just to talk to me, although maybe you want to chat. But so was that something that you learned over time, or is that something that you've? Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, over time. I think, and again, I think in our industry, because of the fact that we are able to do processes so quickly and speed is important. And we live in an environment where you don't pick up that phone or answer, they're calling someone else.
Well, it also shows how much you care about
Absolutely.
the relationship, right? Because
Absolutely.
your level of expectation is that if a realtor partner messages you or sends you an email, typically you're responding to that within seconds or minutes. Whereas most other people may be by the end of the day or by the following day.
I put upon myself by doing that because it's almost an expectation. It's now you're right. I've responded in such a quick manner and so quickly, no matter what time of the day it is, it's almost expected. Or secondly, if they don't hear from me in that hour, they think there's something wrong.
Are you alive?
They're reaching out to somebody else in my office.
Hence why it's silent. His phone.
And that's something that, if you look at, David has probably thousands of online reviews, pretty much all of them 5-star reviews. I remember back
reviews.
in like 6-7 years ago, I used to compete with David and try to figure out how can I get more reviews, and I would never be able to get ahead because by the time I got an extra 3, 4, 5 reviews, he had put up 10 more reviews in that same time frame. And every single client touches on the response time. Exactly. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's one thing that we hear the most of is, he gets back so quickly. This is glued to me. My phone's glued to me. I think in part we live in a business environment. Unfortunately, our business partners live in an environment where if you don't reply, there's got to be someone else that's going to reply. We have to live with this mentality that if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So speed is going to be very important for that reason. We do it in part for 2 reasons. Why? Our business partners expect it, but more important, I think our clients love that. I think our clients, when they see that we're quick to respond, quick to reply, quick to give to their needs, are thinking, this is the person I want to work with. He's going to get this shit done. I may not speak with every client, but I probably speak with about 98% of them, whether I do the deal or not, whether they're my team members. I love the engagement.
So how do you balance this? Because I know you
don't
work really hard. Okay.
There's no balance, okay?
But how do you balance? Do you have a cutoff at night?
I got a twin brother. He's actually doing. He's at the office right now.
Your twin brother doing? But do you stop taking calls or text past a certain time?
I keep telling myself that I'm not going to do it after a certain time, but I do it anyways. If I get a text at 8 o'clock, I will still reply even if I can't do something at that moment. That's what my agents love about me.
I was going to say.
They say, David, even if we can't get a hold of you, you always send a quick text to say, hey, I'm on the phone or I'm in an appointment or whatever. I'm going to let you guys know what we've just done recently, which we have found to be very valuable to my team and I. A lot of the agents know myself and my sales team. So we've encouraged them in the range group, and other team members have now put Team Arocho on a group text. Now what they do is when they send a text to David, it goes to Team Arocho. All of my sales member gets it. So now if I can't reply, there's 5 other people on that text message. Someone's going to reply to that group text.
I've been outside watching a lot of what you've done. And one thing that is pretty amazing what you've done, and I'm curious to hear how you learned this, is managing your team. You are obsessed with whatever you do. You are obsessed with the most important part of your business, which is responding communication. But you then don't try to then do other things because you obsess over it. How did you learn that skill set a little bit of what you should spend your time in and then how to pass that on? Because delegation is a hard item.
Yeah,
it is.
How do you know?
That's been my biggest struggle for me. Because I think for me, just doing it all, I'm not going to lie to you, listen, when I came to NFM, it has been probably the best move for me and my team because as busy and as much as I work, it has created a better balance for me. I think because of the structure, the way it's structured, but also my team. My team has really stepped up, and again, they will pick up a lot of that slack. So to me, I have chosen not to learn certain things because I know that if I learn it, I end up doing it.
They're like, no, David.
Yeah, exactly. So what I've done since I came to NFM, there's certain functions where it doesn't encompass certain things. Listen, I don't even know how to lock a loan, okay? Yeah. So I have purposely told myself
I'm not going. From?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I learned that from Daniel, for those who want to know. But to me, I think it was important. Again, that's why you have a team.
Yes. Right.
Utilize them. And again, if I can't trust my team good enough, then I shouldn't have a team to begin with. So it took me a while to really allow myself to get to that point where I can trust those on my team. You guys will see, as much business as we do, I've kept my team in a small level. Could I do double the volume? Probably so if I grew my team. And that's another discussion to be had. But I've also kept my team to somewhat small. Why? Because I never want to lose sense or control of it. Because to me, again, if it gets too big and I lose mindset of what's taking place everywhere else, then again, my name is at jeopardy.
I mean, I think you could build a huge team. You were one of 7 kids. You're used to that big group.
We fought all the time. No, I'm just teasing.
No, but when you look at your team, I understand why it's maybe scary to like think about doubling or growing, because you've really built a family and you know them
That's a
and
good
they
point.
know you, and changing that is probably a little scary, right? But I know you have big goals for the future.
I do. And again, not only for me, I mean, listen, I love the fact that NFM gives you that ability that I can triple my business and still be instrumental. If I decide I want to phase myself out to some degree, I've got a team that's there to pick these things up, so I like that ability here. So to me, that's where I want to go next. Obviously, I'm at that point where I can grow and still able to manage. If I have to manage my team, I don't want them. I find my team to be very, very self-sufficient. If I've got to oversee everything that they do, then I'm not doing my job and I've hired the wrong people. It's hiring the right people in play. And I've got those right people. They're very self-sufficient. I don't have to guide my team. I don't have to tell them what to do. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. And that's where I'm happy at this point. With NFM has afforded me that luxury with the processes in place. My team is self-sufficient, self-directed, and
you take good care of them. You
too good
love
care-
on your team.
too good care of that.
I mean, it's
Listen,
very,
I've it's like with my mom. When my dad passed away many, many years ago, I've always said, I will go without before my mother ever goes without. And I feel almost that same manner with my team. I'll do less for myself to ensure that they are doing okay, because I know who they are and what they mean to me and what value they are to me. They're loyal to me. Sometimes, to get good people in play, you got to pay a little bit more as a result. But again, their mindset is just like mine. So I appreciate that.
That's a family. One of your team members got married, and there was photos online of the whole Rocho team at the wedding. And
absolutely,
it just looked like a true family, right?
We were not in the wedding.
They were dancing though. David was busting some moves, I'm sure. So, but it was just really cool to see, that everyone's there. It's not just like there because they work together.
I've always wanted to make this a family environment. I'm very close with my family. I love my family. Obviously, to me, my team is my family. This business is my family. At the end of the day, this is what all I've known for the last almost 30 years. Or I say familia.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love that this business is your family, because it is like you've invested so much of yourself and so many people in the industry. And I'm always in awe because I'm like, David, you will just say what you feel about something. And I'm like, how do you have the guts to, like, where do you get that from? Is your mom like that? Is it growing up with a big family? Like, how do you?
I don't know. I think it's experience, confidence. I think for me, listen, someone starting out at this point in their life can't be as cocky per se as me. If you want to use that terminology per se, I hate to use that word, but again, you got to be more humble. I think maybe that's probably what's helped me too. Is that even though despite my success and all that other great stuff that's come with it, I've remained humbled. I'm very grateful and humbled and thankful. I'm just so thankful for what I do get. So whether it's a lower year or a bigger year, I'm just thankful for it, and I think my family's created that.
Being able to be thankful is probably because of, the time before when things are not easy, because people see you today and they're like, oh yeah, he's got this all together and this is how
it was.
he is.
Listen, you guys, it was not always like this. Are you kidding me? I started at a later stage in my life, maybe in my early 30s when I really got serious. When I got involved in this industry, when I realized how important it was going to be to me, I literally took about 3 years, at minimum 3 years. I didn't go out. I quit seeing my friends. I didn't drink. I literally told them, I said, you guys, I've got to stay focused. Because at the end of the day, I realized that I was either going to make something of myself or I was not. And I chose the first. So I knew what it was going to take to get there, but it was sacrifice. Would I be willing to sacrifice like that at this point in my life today? Probably not. But back then I realized what it took to do that. So I took 3 years. I didn't go out. I was at every realtor function. I was at every gathering. I was at every possible realtor offices, title companies. No, they were going to sick of seeing my face. Let's put it that way, okay? But also back then, you got to figure 25 years ago, we had that luxury where you could just walk in. You could walk into title offices unannounced. You could walk in anywhere, and that was expected. People just graciously opened arms when they saw you. You didn't have that luxury per se today, But again, back then, I realized how serious that if I was going to do this and I was going to do this right, I had to make sure that I was going to be right. For me, at that point is when I changed my direction in my life. No more partying, no more of that fun stuff. let's make this
Running up credit cards.
and you're
all
right.
that stuff.
And you make a good point, Kelly. My success today wasn't always like that. Again, being raised up with 7 kids. Listen, I look back at my dad worked at Ford Motor Company. If he made $40,000 a year, I don't know if he was lucky. And I think to myself, I don't know how he survived with 7 kids, on that kind of salary. But we lived well. We lived very well. We lived comfortably. We had everything that we had. To me, I like that mindset, but I realized, my dad gave me that work ethic to say, if you want the next step, you're going to have to work for it. I can't give this to you.
Well, and that's awesome because, I've been in the industry for almost 18 years. And ever since I'm in the industry, I know David Arocho. I know the name. I hear it. Yeah. And not everyone gets to know that, to see the parts of what it took to sacrifice, what you had to do. Daniel talked about that. Everyone sees the success, they don't see the before, and it's so great to hear what you had to do to get there.
Listen, you guys, there was a point in my life where, I was in debt. My next paycheck, I was in credit card debt, over in debt, so this life was not always like this for me, so obviously I lived the other life where I realized, okay, I was on the hurting end of things, But again, to me, that path back then was also my choice. I got to that point because of my wrong choices.
I loved hearing that because I see that as kind of like what separates people. And you mentioned that there was a point in your life, like in your early 30s, right, when you made the sacrifice, right? But it was really because of a mindset that you had, right? And the mindset was, I want to make a name for myself, and you committed to it. And when you commit to things, there's sacrifice involved. Talk a little bit about that mindset of that burning desire. What led you to want to make a name for yourself? What was the reason behind that?
I was probably drawn to the excitement of seeing the real estate world and the gatherings and so forth. And I had friends who were in the real estate business. That was kind of the beginning parts of it, per se. I didn't know I was going to do that. That was not my direction of life to be where I'm at today when I started this business. I think for me, Darla Luby, who was an agent back in the day, who unfortunately since passed away, who was a friend of mine, really kind of gave me the start. She kind of, she said, I really think you could really be good at this. And I kind of leveraged that a little bit. I was fearful of it, but to me, I took her word for it and realized that, she sacrificed as well. I realized what she went through as well, to get where she was at. I think when I started getting involved with clients, that was probably the initial start. I think to me, I wasn't really much involved in again, I worked in the servicing side. I was calling people for collections, okay? So when it was nice to talk to people that were buying a house, or doing something more on the different side. So I felt like that there was more of a positive avenue on the sales side. Yeah, I was helping them, not doing on the other side. So to me, doing that is what's probably started that direction. And again, to me, I know you asked the question. I'm losing my train of thought now.
No. It's really unique because to do what you've done requires a very significant level of commitment, a significant level of expectations.
And listen, Daniel, back then, I wasn't probably as disciplined when I started this. It was probably a weekend, I think, when I realized, okay, either you're going to do this or you're not going to do this. And when I realized, okay, I'm going to make a go of this, you're right. It was sacrifice. I cut out so much stuff in my life because I figured, okay, this is the only way I can do it. The only way I'm going to stay focused. Listen, you have your rewards after you make success. At the end of the day, you can do things differently afterwards. But to me back then, it was important to me to say I couldn't let anybody lose my direction. Yeah. Friends who wanted me to go out on the weekends couldn't do it. I had to go to an open house. No, I had to go here. So I stayed away from what was going to keep me away from what I was focused on. That was.
And I respect that so much because there's so many people that are going to hear that and really it's going to resonate and they're going to relate to that because they might be in that point where in their career when they just can't get past that hump, or they have this big goal that if they're a loan officer now, they're closing loans, they want to get to that next level. And it's really about a mindset, I think, that you've described where
they have to ask themselves, first of all, why are you in this? Why are you in this to begin with? What are your reasonings? What is your motivation to be a loan officer? And I think the answers will give you the direction of where they're going to go. I think how they view that is going to be maybe a sense of what direction they go. And again, to me, I enjoy this, but my mindset 25 years ago also was financially. We go into this with we think, we'll make all these money and all the riches that come with it. It's not that easy, first of all. And secondly, if you go in with that mindset, all about money, it'll be your demise. It'll be your demise. To me, I realized that in order to get to that point, what I was going to have to do. It wasn't about just getting to the money. Money was the last thing that was on my mind at that point.
But did you notice, you transitioned from going out every Saturday, right, to going to an open house, and that at first is not as much fun as going out.
Hated it.
Right?
I hated every bit of it.
That was important. You said you enjoyed the journey, right? It's all about enjoying it. So did you start to enjoy those little things? You find the joy in the successes and all that. Did you start to enjoy those?
Absolutely. Listen, I'm grateful that, unfortunately, I live in a world where most of my friends are realtors, unfortunately. So that's what's happened with the last 25 years. All your friends are in the business, so I don't regret my time frame. Listen, could I have changed certain things back, from now to them? Sure. I like where my journey's been. I like where it's gone. Could I be better? Sure. Listen, if we're foolish to think that we can improve. I'm not perfect. I have much room to improve, and I want to improve. Can I do things better? Absolutely. So if we ever get to the point where we think we're, too cocky and we're that good, and that's why I keep saying, I tell my staff, you're only as good as your last transaction. And you got to remember that. You got to remember that. You have to remember that, because that's all it's all about. And to me, that word of mouth, people talk about all the, they'll talk about all the bad things. They won't talk about the good things, So to me, everything has to stay good for that reason.
I've known you for a while, right? And I had known of you prior to knowing you. And one thing that I don't think, I think a lot of people know this, but I think it's important that we mention is that, when it comes to the mortgage industry in Central Ohio, David Arocho is the most legendary figure, and to me, one of the biggest icons.
Not
right?
sure if that's a compliment or not.
And
you say legend.
I say this because there's a lot of really incredible people in this industry, right? And we know a lot of people that are incredibly good. But what's unique about David is the consistency over decades,
That's
right?
correct.
And so staying at the top, like it's very difficult to get to the top, right? But it's even more difficult to stay at the top. And it's even more difficult to stay at the top for a prolonged period of time, let's say 10 years, 15 years at the top, right? And that's something that I really admire about you. You're one of the only few people I know personally that have had this kind of
Listen, Daniel, I could look back at all the names that I was against 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
No one's here.
They're not here. They're not relevant. They're not in that top tier. Part why I have told myself I can't change. What I have done, my model, as structured as it is, but maybe sometimes, chaotic at times for myself, it worked. It's the customer experience. And again, reputation. If you don't care about your brand or your name, I don't know where that's going to go. And to me, you guard your name, you guard your reputation, and as you have, Daniel, obviously with you and NFM, and part why I came here. Because obviously I knew what you brought and what your brand was going to be, And I respect the fact that you allowed me to come here and run my ship in the manner that I have always ran it, knowing that, hey, David, you're successful. Why would I want to change that? So you're right. I mean, I look back at things and I ask myself, can I change certain things? Absolutely. But there's certain things that I don't want to change, and I'm not going to change.
Yeah, if it's not broken,
right.
Why fix it?
Why fix it? Yeah, so there's some tweaking that I can always do, but at the end of the day, the core of where I have started 25 years ago has remained the same, And again, my mindset, my work ethic, it's reputation. And again, if these LOs don't think about it, hear about it, reputation. If you don't think about that or hear, that's going to be brained in your mind. That's
so
really
if you were
everything.
to give advice, right, to a new loan officer coming in, is that what you would say?
Huge.
What would be the top three things that you would tell a new loan officer coming in that they need to guard if they want to have not just be a one-hit wonder, but to have longevity in their career as you had?
I think that my work ethic, my honesty, my integrity, keeping that motto of you're only as good as your last transaction. People stay with you for those reasons. Here's my thing about new loan officers. Some years ago, I met with probably about 30 of them. This is some years before you. And I'll never forget, I was in a group with a bunch of them. And they were asking me some very similar question. And I looked at about half of the people in the group and I said, you know what? About half of you that I see right now shouldn't even be in this room. And the other half, I ask, why are you even here? Why are you even doing this? So to me, for loan officers, again, ask themselves, what is drawing you to this business? What is it about being a loan officer? Why do you like it? What's driving you to it? What are your motivations? So to me, that was important for me. Again, I came to it with a mindset of not financial, even though the financial gains have been rewarding for me. But again, I realized too that I didn't want that to be short-lived. We live in a business where you can do very well for a couple of years and then you're done. And to me, I realized I want to be successful for the entire life. So my vision was long-term. It was never a short-term vision. I think for a loan officer, again, mindset. Why are you in this? Secondly, commitment. If you're going to come into this thinking that it's an 8 to 5 job, you're in the wrong business. Work ethic. You got to be ethical. You got to be honest. You've got to have a heart. You got to have integrity. You've got to really show your agents and your clients that it's all about them and not about you. A client can sense when it's about them and when it's about you and their money.
100%. That's critical.
Yeah. New loan officers, to me, how do you want your name to be viewed? How do you want people to remember you at the end of the day? I am one that I always wanted nothing but positive things to be said about me.
And we've all witnessed it. You protect the brand, which is important. It's not always good calls that you have to make, right?
That is correct.
So when you're saying protect the brand and it's a bad call, what is your thoughts behind that? Like, how do you handle that a little bit, right? If it's an uncomfortable call, like tell us the secret recipe to making a tough call for David Arocho.
A tough call in the sense of what?
Like maybe
There's
it's something
no
that went
tough calls for
south, right?
David.
Like something that was unexpected, right?
Maybe like a client that is hopeful to be approved is not going to be in a position to be approved.
To me, your outcomes are never going to be great for the consumer. But at the end of the day, the consumer wants to hear the honest answer. I was never a yes person. When I got in this business, I could never be a yes person. And I think that's the fault of many people. Now, again, I learned a valuable lesson, like I said, on a transaction that made me realize I will never be a yes person. To me, you can't. I think educating them, having that conversation with them, letting them know the reasonings. I've had conversations with clients that I hate to not, hey, I can't do it for whatever the reasons are. Taking down a client down a rabbit hole the day before closing to tell them they can't get closed versus telling them up front, here's the reasons why we can't do this. They respect it, they admire it, and their agents respect that even
and you're
more
quick
so.
with that, right?
Very
I think that's
quick with
important.
that.
Like you don't delay that conversation.
No.
And you've built so
swallow
much trust around that because I'm sure there have been clients that you've told no and they've gone somewhere else just to get to the day before closing. And then the realtor has that experience as well along with them. And when that happens over your career, they're like, okay, I need to connect this person with David, have David look at this because I really trust what he says because they've been down that path, in the past. Like we've all had that
I think that most of my client, agents have a good sense, on that sense. But we'll go back to you mentioned about the agents. I've used a model, and I've talked about this before. The model has always been for me that, again, back in the day, Darla Luby, she always said to me, she was the realtor. She said, David, I am the quarterback and you're the running back. And when I give you the ball, I will see you in the end zone. Her point, all of that was,
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because she says to me, she goes, I need to focus on my next play, which is her next client. My realtors today now can say, I'll give a transaction to David and they don't have to worry about it. Yeah. When an agent has to address or has to monitor your process, you're not doing your job. A realtor who doesn't have to call you for updates because they know it's going to the closing table. Their focus is on their next client. And that's what her whole point to me was that I give you the ball. I need to focus on my next play. I'll see you in the end zone. I'll see it closing. Yeah. So again, that's a mental thing for me. I use that mindset constantly as a result of that.
I think that's a really great way to describe you and your business, because anytime I talk to realtors and I ask them, like, what do you like about David the most? Is like, I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, and once I give a client to David, I won't have to worry about it. I know it's going to close and it's going to be smooth and it's going to close early. You've really taken that to heart.
He doesn't fumble and he scores. I mean, I feel like there's a marketing thing happening, David, running into an end zone here shortly with a closing package.
I got pictures of that. I got
Dakota's listening.
Pictures from back in the day. I got it with a football outfit on.
That's why he does the push-ups, so he can run through those tackles. You know what I mean? That's what it's for. So
that has been a great analogy for many, many years that I've used. When I have realtor presentations, they love that. When I have that discussion with them, let them know that this is how we view you. You're the quarterback. I'm the running back. Give me that ball. Focus on your next play. I'll see you. Yeah. And that's just the analogy that we use, and the agents love that. And I think we use that mindset. We do as a team.
So just to kind of wrap up, is there anything?
Oh, I don't want to leave.
I know. We're going to do this again. We're going to have 2.0. But is there anything that you want to say or like kind of a little hint to like what's next for you or anything you want to kind of wrap up with?
Oh my goodness! What's the next big thing for David Arocho? Well, let's see. Oh shit! What do I want to do next? Well, no. I've had a conversation with you and Daniel. Obviously, I think my next thing is that I wouldn't mind growing. I'm at a point on my team where I can see some growth potentials. So I'm obviously looking at Daniel and NFM to help me get to that next level. The best, getting the best people out there to join my team as well. So that's probably my next thing. But again, I will never lose sight of where I'm at. Staying grounded, staying focused, at the end of the day, remembering why we do what we do and for who we do it for.
Well, I think that's amazing. And I know, like you talk about growth, like you're just going to be such an awesome mentor for those new people coming in. So
I hope so.
We'll see you in the end zone, David.
Touchdown.
Thank you so much today.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I want to do this every day.
Yeah. We'll do this again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.